Today, I will talk about America's dominance getting over in West Asia, and tomorrow, I'll talk about India getting shocked by the development in West Asia, something that they should have foreseen, and what impact those developments will have on India. This I will discuss tomorrow. So, let me talk about the subject today. We know that President Trump he spoke with President Putin, and the idea was that if President Putin could help him end the crisis or bring a ceasefire with Iran. Then there are also reports that the Americans have reached out to Oman so that Oman could be the mediator for a ceasefire with Iran. But Iran is adamant. Iran has said no ceasefire. Iran says it will fight. Because what Iran wants is not a ceasefire, but a permanent solution to the problem. And a permanent solution will not happen in a hurry, it may not happen at all. And President Trump is aware of that, which is why he is exasperated. And then now he goes and blames Steve Witkoff, his son in law Jared Kushner, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, that all these fellows pushed him that to start the preemptive strikes on Iran, because they said that Iran was about to attack, which of course is not true. But the key point is this: why did President Trump consult all these fellows for the war when all these fellows don't understand warfare at all? And I have included the Secretary of War Pete Hegseth also in this list because I have heard Pete Hegseth on a number of occasions, and I have come to the conclusion that while he is the Secretary of War, he is unlikely to have spoken to the commander of Central Command and got a war appreciation from him. A war appreciation basically must include three things. One is know your enemy. What are the enemy capabilities? What is his will to fight? The second is fully understand the battle space where the war is to happen. And the third is know the backers of your enemy. Who are the people who are backing your enemy and what they bring to the table, especially at a time when the world is multipolar. So ideally, what President Trump, he's the commander in chief, he should have spoken to his chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee, and to the National Security Council. Unfortunately, the National Security Council, under him, I checked, is notional, because this body used to have about 450 staffers, has barely 40. So it is only in namesake. As far as the chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff is concerned, I'm sure he would have spoken to him. But here is the unfortunate part. In my assessment, the American military, which has been in West Asia for decades, simply does not understand either Iran or the advances in warfare that Iran has made. And that is a very dangerous thing. Now, why I say that is because when the aggression was done by the American and Israelis or Iran, it was very clear that the center of gravity of the war that they chose was regime change. It was a wrong center of gravity for the war. Because regime change, they should have known, is not applicable to Iran, because Iran has already created a decentralized command and control. The center of gravity of this war lay elsewhere. And it is very important for any military to identify that very properly. Because the Americans did not identify those two center of gravities, because they were oblivious of what Iran had done. So what has happened today is that the Americans have lost military dominance in West Asia. I'll come to this subject in a while. But before that, what I want to say is that certainly President Trump is excited. He is very frustrated. So now he told the press that I have destroyed the Iranian Navy, I have destroyed their missiles, I have destroyed the Air Force, and I can declare a ceasefire. Actually, you can't. President Trump can't declare a unilateral ceasefire until Iran allows a free passage through the Strait of Hormuz to the commercial ships. And that Iran is not willing to do at this time. And President Trump knows it, that he cannot say that there is a unilateral ceasefire, and hence his frustration is mounting. And he also hinted to the media that if I want, I can end the war in half an hour. Now, this is a clear signal that America could use nuclear weapons. Now, in my assessment, when American president, he makes such a signal, it should be taken very seriously by the world. Because Americans have used nuclear weapons, because Americans are absolutely arrogant when it comes to their military power. So I'm sure there are a lot of people in the world thinking in various capitals that there is a need to have a UN resolution where it should be put in legal terms that in the West Asia war, nobody should use nuclear weapons. Not that the Americans care about UN resolutions, but let there be a legal document. But to move on, let me now talk about the two centers of gravities which have been completely missed in this war by the US military. There is one center of gravity which has international implications and the other that has regional implications. The one with international implications is the Strait of Hormuz. And with regional implication are the American bases on GCC nation soil, which is the Gulf Cooperation Council nations. Let me explain both of them and how, because of that, America's military dominance is lost in West Asia forever. Now, let me talk of the Strait of Hormuz. We know today there are something like 7,000 oil tankers that are stranded there, waiting to go, but unable to go, scared to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And because of that, the price of the oil, gas, food, and even certain industrial goods, it is rising. And the Iranians have very clearly said that very soon the price of a barrel of oil will be $200. Then there's a shortage of LPG, which is cooking gas in India. A dire shortage, it is there. And then there are 3 ships we know who tried to cross the Strait of Hormuz and they were fired by the Iranians. One of the ships was a Thailand carrier, which was headed to India. That was fired upon. So the point is that how have Iranians become so powerful that they are controlling the Strait of Hormuz, despite the fact that the Americans, they have their aircraft carriers there, they have a huge capability there, the French aircraft carrier is there, and they have so much of capability there. And so we need to understand this. What is it that the Iranians have done over the years at the Strait of Hormuz? The first point I want to make is that it is no secret what they were doing over the years. Why? Because in 2025, they released a video of what they were doing there in Strait of Hormuz. It's only that the American military leadership did not bother to see it. And what they are doing is what can be called, they have created an anti-access area denial capability in the Strait of Hormuz. What this means is anti-access, that means you don't allow the access to the enemy in that area. And if the enemy gets the access, you deny maneuverability in that area to the enemy. In other words, as far as Strait of Hormuz is concerned, first of all, the ships will be hesitant to come there. And if they are there, they would be very fearful of whether they will be able to go out or not. And all this has happened because of 3 things that the Iranians have done. The first is they have created hardened underground tunnels. Now, first, the viewers need to know this, that as far as Strait of Hormuz is concerned, it has shallow waters. We are talking of 200-meter depths only. And what we are talking of is that even these massive oil tankers which go slowly through the Strait of Hormuz, they are at a depth of 60 to 100 meters only. So the Iranians over a period of time have these hardened underground tunnels which run all along the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. They have created this. And here they have released the visuals also that they have a lot of capability that they have put there. And the special thing that I want to mention in my video is that they have long-range cruise missiles called Gadar 380 with a range of 1000 kilometers. How this works is that the cruise missiles will be fired from the underwater tunnel. It will emerge from outside the water, and then flying very low at low altitude, they move towards their target and they are guided. And once again, these missiles, they have a double redundancy, so they have a smart guidance. Two guidance systems are there, just in case one fails, which won't. One is that we know in 2026, the Iranian military, they left the GPS and they moved on to the Chinese Beidou 3 satellite constellation. So the guidance will come from there to these cruise missiles. And rest be assured that I don't think the Americans have the capability to jam the Chinese satellites. And the second is that they have a terrain correlation map, a digital map, which is there in the cruise missile, which helps the cruise missile guide to the target. So that is one capability. Just to digress a bit to make a point. There are a lot of visuals which have come of the missiles, the land missiles that the Iranians are firing. And the amazing thing is that they are firing that from underground tunnels. So they have dug the tunnels all over, and then the tunnels on top, they have a sand cover. So the missiles come from down, just that sand cover flows away, and then they go to the target. So this is what they have done over a period of time, and there are so many these tunnels that they have dug. Even if the enemy knows that, all right, this is the tunnel they are using, then there are so many tunnels that they can always not use a particular tunnel that has been used for some time. So I'm just trying to tell the viewers the preparations that they have made, something that the American military should have made. But coming to my second capability, which is part of the anti-access area denial. These are the midget submarines. They are very small submarines and they have enough quantities. And here the North Koreans have helped them a lot. And these can fire both cruise missiles as well as torpedoes. And the third capability are the naval mines. Now, these naval mines are both stationary mines, and there are mines which are called smart stationary mines. What this means is that the smart mines which are stationary, they can launch high-speed rockets at high speed, which go and hit the keel of the ship. Now, when you look at the deadly combination, it becomes very clear that when President Trump told his naval officers that you put the minesweepers and clear the mines, it is not an easy proposition. The Americans are not doing that, despite the claim being made by President Trump that I have sunk 11 or 12 ships of the Navy, of the Iranian Navy. So the reality we have to understand, but reality is something that the Indian media, the mainline media, simply refuses to understand. I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, I heard a clip of a prominent anchor, some specialist, working with NDTV television. And he was saying that Iran economy is bleeding in the war. I mean, this is narrative building. All these fellows, they are experts at narrative building. They do not know their subject at all. And these are the fellows who are doing narrative building in Operation Sindoor. Also, let me give him a reality check of what is happening. Iran economy is not bleeding. Iran was always under sanctions. But today, Iran is selling much more oil than it did when the war was not there. And the Iranian oil is going to China. And in fact, all this oil that they are producing, it all goes to China. And on the way back, there are reports that what they get from China is the missile fuel, which is the propellant to be used in the indigenous missile that they are making. Everything is underground. It is well protected from air. And then, because they are controlling the Strait of Hormuz, so they have given permission to the Bangladeshis that yes, you can take your ships through the Strait of Hormuz. And now there are reports that the fourth time, which is today on the 12th, Jay Shankar, the external affairs minister, he spoke with the foreign minister of Iran and he has sought permission. So the word is permission from the Iranians to allow the Indian ships also to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Well, it is not confirmed whether the permission has come yet. We will get to know that in a while. But this is so much about the center of gravity with international implication, which is the Strait of Hormuz. Let me talk now about the regional center of gravity, what is going on there. So, what the Americans have done there is on the basis that they have mostly with this GCC nations, they have a lot of capabilities there. They have interceptors, they have things like THAAD, they have things like Patriot interceptors. And by the way, Patriots, they cannot stop a missile, they are only meant for aircraft. And then, of course, they have these SM-3s, which is fired from sea. And the most important thing when you have to fire these interceptors are the eyes, which is one big radar that they had put at Qatar, which is the headquarter, the forward headquarter of American Central Command. And this missile is called, radar is called ANFPS 132. Now, this is a very powerful radar. It was a powerful radar costing something like $1 billion. It could detect the target. It could do surveillance till a range of over 5,000 kilometers. It could do a 360 surveillance envelope and it could track hundreds of targets at the same time. So the first thing that the Iranians did was they destroyed this capability. The radar was destroyed. Not only that, the other radars also which THAAD has, they are of course less capability. They also have been destroyed. So the long and short is there are reports nearly confirmed that 7 to 8 radars have been destroyed of the Americans by the Iranians, drones and the Iranian missiles. In other words, if you don't have the eyes, what do your launchers do? Your interceptors do. And in any case, when you are on the defensive, you use the interceptor and the other side is sending waves of drones, then you're using more interceptors, more expensive thing to stop perhaps one missile or a couple or one drone, and perhaps you don't even succeed in that. So the Americans do have an alternate capability, what is called the space-based infrared system. But the issue here is that it can detect the missiles right from when they take off from the launch pad, but it cannot discriminate between a warhead and a decoy, something that ANFPS 132 could do. So that's a big deal if you can't do that. So the point I'm making is America today is facing 3 big problems. And their problems are they are shot with interceptors, their radars have been destroyed, and they have limited production. They cannot match the production of the Israelis Iranians, because for Iran, this is a war of survival. They are not looking at money, that how this deals to how, the OEMs, the American OEMs, the usual thing that happens in a democratic setup, that the whole procurement procedure is very slow, excruciating slow. It is not the case with Iran. So on the other side, what we have, considering that now it is a war of attrition, the Iranians have cluster missiles, they have cruise missiles, they have ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, they have missiles with sharpeners, then they have Shahid drones of all various types, then they have a lot of decoys, all these capabilities underground. And here is the point, they have the capability to keep this war going for anything up to 6 months and perhaps more, and a indigenous production capability within Iran underground, something that Americans do not have, and therefore Americans have a problem. And hence I have concluded that America's dominance is over in West Asia because they identified the wrong center of gravities. But now what has happened is there is so much of panic in America that President Trump, when he was asked by the reporter, you see what the Tomahawk missile has done is something very unfortunate. They've gone and hit a school where small girls are, elementary school in Iran at a place called Minab, where some 167 girls they have been massacred. Now, when President Trump was asked this question that how did this happen, this Tomahawk did it, so he says, well, Iran also has Tomahawk.